If you're over 65, there are 5 phone calls that could genuinely put real money back into your Social Security and Medicare situation every single month. And the overwhelming majority of people in that age group never make a single one of them. Not because the calls are complicated, and not because you need some special qualification to make them, simply because nobody at Social Security and nobody at Medicare has any reason to pick up the phone and call you first. These systems run on autopilot. They use whatever numbers are already sitting in your file, apply the standard formula, and move on to the next account. Nobody there is paid to look at your specific record and ask whether you're leaving money behind. That job, whether anyone ever told you this or not, has always quietly belonged to you. My name is Lana Maines, and today I'm walking you through exactly which 5 calls to make, in what order, and the specific words to use on each one so you're not fumbling through a government phone line hoping you ask the right question. Let me paint a quick picture first, because numbers land differently once you see them attached to an actual situation. Picture a retiree who just wrapped up his final working year, watched his Social Security deposit start showing up like clockwork, and simply assumed the amount had to be correct because, well, why wouldn't it be? It wasn't. 2 of his strongest earning years had been recorded incorrectly somewhere along the way, which meant his monthly check had been calculated too low from the very first payment. On the Medicare side, his income had dropped by more than half the moment he stopped working, yet he was still being charged an extra fee based on his old, higher salary from years earlier. And layered on top of both of those problems, his income was now low enough that an entirely separate program, one he'd genuinely never heard of, could have been covering his Medicare premium for him automatically. 3 separate leaks, all pulling money out of the exact same check every month, and not a single letter ever arrived warning him any of it was happening. That's not an unusual story. That's simply what happens when nobody asks. The first call goes straight to Social Security, using the number printed on the back of your card or on any letter they've sent you. The number itself doesn't matter nearly as much as what you specifically request once a real person is on the line. Here's what most people never realize. Your monthly Social Security check is built entirely from a year-by-year record of everything you earned across your working life. And that record is not automatically accurate. Employers report numbers incorrectly. Entire years occasionally go missing. Self-employment income sometimes never makes it onto the record at all. The system doesn't catch these errors on its own. It simply calculates your benefit using whatever figures happen to be sitting in the file, right or wrong. So if even a couple of your strongest earning years are missing or understated, your check has likely been set too low from day one, quietly every single month since. On this call, ask the representative to pull up your earnings record and walk through it with you year by year, comparing it against what you actually earned. You're looking specifically for missing years, figures that look implausibly low, or jobs that never made it onto the list at all. If something looks wrong, ask exactly how to correct it, and ask directly whether fixing it would increase your monthly benefit. Then ask them to run what's called a recomputation, which is simply the technical term for recalculating your benefit using the corrected numbers. There's a specific group of people this first call matters even more for, and it's widows and widowers, because survivor benefit rules are genuinely some of the most confusing in the entire system, and underpayments here happen constantly and often go unnoticed for years. If your spouse has passed away, use this same call to specifically ask whether you're receiving the correct survivor amount, and ask them directly whether you'd actually be better off collecting based on your own earnings record or your late spouse's. This single question has been known to shift a monthly check by hundreds of dollars, and Social Security will never proactively call you to point this out. Before you dial, have your Social Security number, a photo ID, and if you've kept them, Any old tax returns, W-2 forms, or pay stubs from your working years within reach, since those documents become your proof if a year on their record doesn't match what you actually earned. Be specific rather than vague when you're on the phone. Don't simply ask whether your check looks right, because a vague question gets a vague, dismissive answer. Instead, say plainly that you'd like to review your earnings record year by year and request a recomputation of your benefit, because you believe some earnings may be missing or recorded incorrectly. Then stop talking and let them actually pull up the file. Write down everything they tell you, and if they say a correction is needed, ask 2 direct follow-up questions. When will you see the change, and will it be backdated? That second question matters more than it sounds like it should, because if you've been underpaid for years, backdating means that money can come back to you, not just going forward. The second call takes you somewhere entirely different, to your state's Medicare Savings Program office rather than Social Security itself. And that single distinction is exactly why almost nobody ever makes this call. If your income falls under a certain threshold, this state-run program can actually pay your Medicare Part B premium on your behalf. The entire thing. For 2026, that standard Part B premium sits at $202.90 a month. Money that gets pulled directly out of your Social Security deposit automatically before it ever lands in your account, which is exactly why so many people never stop to question whether someone else should be covering it instead. The income limits for this program tend to be higher than most people assume, and they shift every year. So someone who checked and didn't qualify 5 years ago might very well qualify today. On this call, ask 2 specific things: how to apply and what this year's income and asset limits are for your state. Don't talk yourself out of calling because you assume you make too much, since there are multiple qualification tiers, and falling slightly over one line doesn't necessarily disqualify you from another. If you qualify, that premium simply stops being deducted from your check going forward. While you have that same office on the line, ask about one more program, because qualifying for the Medicare Savings Program frequently qualifies you automatically for something called Extra Help, which covers the bulk of your prescription drug costs. If you qualify, what you pay out of pocket at the pharmacy drops dramatically, capped at roughly $12.65 for brand-name medications and around $5 for generics in 2026. For someone managing several regular prescriptions, that can add up to well over $6,000 a year in savings, layered directly on top of whatever the Medicare Savings Program is already putting back into your check. 2 genuinely valuable programs, 1 single phone call, and most people claim neither simply because nobody ever told them to ask. The fourth call goes back to Social Security, and it involves an extra fee with a name that sounds far more intimidating than it needs to: the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, or IRMAA. Here's what it actually means in plain terms. If your income sits above a certain level, Medicare adds a surcharge on top of your standard premium. For 2026, that threshold kicks in at $109,000 for a single filer, or $218,000 for a married couple filing jointly. And depending on how far above that threshold your income falls, the added surcharge can range from roughly $81 up to nearly $487 a month, on top of your regular premium. On its own, that's simply how the rule works, and that's reasonable enough. But here's the trap, and it catches a lot of retirees off guard. The income Medicare actually looks at isn't what you're earning this year, it's your tax return from 2 years earlier. Your 2026 premium is based on what you reported back in 2024. Think about exactly who that hurts the most. Someone who was still working a full salary in 2024 and has since retired is now living on a fraction of that income. Yet Medicare is still charging them the higher surcharge tied to money they no longer make. The fix here is a specific form, the SSA 44, formerly called the Medicare Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount Life-Changing Event Form. That phrase, life-changing event, is the entire key to this call. Social Security allows you to challenge that surcharge if your income dropped because of a genuine life change. And retirement absolutely counts as one, along with losing a pension, the death of a spouse, divorce, or simply stopping work. On this call, tell them directly that you've experienced a life-changing event that lowered your income and ask specifically for the SSA 44 form to challenge your Medicare premium. Fill it out, attach proof of the change, whether that's a letter confirming you stopped working or documentation of your current income, and send it in. If it's approved, they don't just lower your bill moving forward, they go back and refund the difference on what you already overpaid while the outdated income figure was still being used. The fifth call is the one most people never even think to make, and it's simply this. Once you've completed the first 4, call Social Security one more time and ask them to confirm in writing everything that changed across every call. Your corrected earnings record, your survivor benefit status if applicable, your Medicare Savings Program enrollment, and your SSA 44 outcome, all in a single written summary tied to your account. This isn't optional paperwork, it's your protection. Government systems occasionally lose track of verbal confirmations, and having a single consolidated written record means that if anything reverts or gets flagged incorrectly down the line, you have documentation in hand rather than a fuzzy memory of a phone call from months earlier. Every one of these 5 calls only happens if you're the one who picks up the phone and makes it happen. None of them will ever be initiated for you. Be patient, be specific, write down names and reference numbers as you go, and if the first person you speak with says something doesn't apply to you or a program doesn't exist, don't accept that as the final answer. Simply call back and try again, since the next representative may know exactly what you're asking about. The money involved here, potentially hundreds of dollars a month, compounding into tens of thousands of dollars across a full retirement, was never something you had to be owed extra to receive. It was already yours the entire time. It just required someone to finally ask the right questions in the right order. And that someone has always been you.